My name is Aidyn Ali. I was born prematurely and developed retinopathy of prematurity. This is a look through my eyes. It was good.
Problems?
No.
Sure?
No, not today.
Aidyn, a 14-year-old Form 2 student of Queen's Royal College, is like any typical student. He has favorite subjects, likes to talk to his friends, and now does online classes. The only thing is, he's visually impaired, and so he has had to adapt to life at school a bit differently.
I would rather online classes because it means that I don't have to get up as early. It's easier to send and receive work. It's also less traveling because I don't really have to travel. Secondary school has been going good so far. I haven't really faced any major challenges. And my subjects are understandable, they're good, they're easy-ish. Well, some of them are, but they're understandable. If it's anything to do with like technology, like what I'm doing here right now, it's easy. It's very easy for me to do that because of what technology has done. It's allowed a lot of applications and stuff to be able to use stuff like screen readers and magnifiers. So I can just turn on the screen reader and it will read out all the text, read all the buttons and everything. My parents and my teachers offer me support. And without their support, I don't think I would be where I am today, where I am right now. I don't think I would have the things that I have right now if it weren't for them.
Well, education has always been important for me, especially literacy. I always thought that all my children should be able to read and write. So from the time Aidyn was small, I enlisted him into preschool and then primary school later on. From the time Aidyn came home from the hospital, we knew that he was going to be different. He would have vision problems. But his family, which would be his father and I, his aunts and uncles, everybody who's close around him, always had a mindset that Aidyn wouldn't be treated differently, that he was going to be treated just like any other normal child who doesn't have a disability. So enlisting him into school was part of that, treating him like every other child. I think the challenges that he would have faced is being in a bigger school where the population is greater than he was accustomed to, being outside for break times and having other children running around him, getting disoriented from that. In the classroom, it was seeing on the board and the standard way that we teach with chalk and markers or on whiteboard and regular books and print. That were his challenges in the regular school setting. But he was able to overcome them. He was also lucky enough to have a support group in the schools that he was allocated to, where he didn't face any prejudice or hate. Everybody was welcoming to him. So he always had that support around him to be able to manage in a regular school setting. We try to guide him as best we can if there's anything that we can do to help him in terms of research and getting the different tools and apparatus for him to achieve his goals.
The Queen's Royal College is an institution that believes in inclusion. One of the first things we will attempt to do is to try to find out what are the challenges of the particular student. Because you can have individuals who are visually impaired, but they have different conditions. One of the things we recognized with Aidyn is that we would probably need to have an individual working alongside him. So when Aidyn came into school in Form 1, I spent quite a bit of time trying to get an aid for him through the Ministry of Education, and I was able to eventually do that. As principal, my first responsibility is to provide the necessary conditions that would allow them to have a normal education. I see that as my responsibility. So they come into Queen's Royal College, which is not, I admit, an institution that was set up with these challenges in mind. Neither is it an institution blessed with the resources to allow us to easily teach individuals with impairments such as Aidyn. However, what we have to do is to try to make these conditions as easy and as amenable to individuals such as Aidyn. For a student with an impairment, a visual impairment such as we have seen in QRC over the time, to simply graduate, that in itself is a major achievement. However, these young men have gone on to do very, very well. They have left the college with full certificates, and a number of them have gone on as well to hold jobs within our society and continue to represent themselves, their families, and Queen's Royal College as an institution. There is no excuse for not reaching your heights and your greatness. And this is the message that we try to give to all of our students, all of them, but especially those with special challenges.
Education is the only way that someone who is blind could be given an opportunity to meet the fullest expectation. Once someone gets that opportunity to go to school, their life changes. And for persons who are blind, it is no different. Because of technology nowadays, persons who are blind could go to a regular school. Unlike long ago, you have to be placed in an institution, like a school for the blind children. But nowadays, if you are just blind, with the level of the speed of technology, persons who are blind could function in the classroom like anyone else. The teachers have to just make small amendments to the teaching methods. At primary school, when I went in prior to getting totally blind, I couldn't see on the blackboard. So I had my friends next to me. While they're copying in their notebook, they will tell me what they are writing, and similarly, I will do it. Or two, I will go close to the board. After, say, when I went to Costa to do my associate degree, I learned how to use the recorder. So I record my notes in the classroom, so I will go back home, and if I forget anything, I could go back to my recording. As someone who is blind, you need to become creative in the classroom. Similarly, the teacher must be having that willingness to help the student who is blind. And once we have that partnership between teacher and student, I think it is an excellent opportunity to create the learning opportunity for the student.
Aidyn has never been able to see in the same way a sighted person can, and although his vision is not totally gone, retinopathy of prematurity and retinal detachment have caused him to have very limited sight.
I can see big objects, I can see color, but not accurately always. So like I would always be able to see color. But if it's very similar color, like it's very, very similar, I probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference from, like, for example, royal blue and a kind of light purple. I can see people, and if they look different, like very different, then I'll be able to tell. But I wouldn't be able to tell by their face.
Retinopathy of prematurity, as the name indicates, is a condition that occurs in babies who are born prematurely and their lungs are not fully developed. Hence, they need oxygen support in order to sustain life. Because the blood vessels, particularly in the peripheral areas of the retina, are immature, they respond by constricting and producing ischemia, which results in the elaboration of chemicals that promote the growth of new and abnormal blood vessels. These are associated with scar tissue formation and can lead to detachments of the retina, complicated detachments of the retina, There are various stages. The earlier stages can be treated. They need to be caught early, and so screening must take place even in the neonatal unit while they are in their oxygen incubators with oxygen therapy going, so that the retinal surgeon can then treat as appropriate with laser treatment. So those early stages can be treated and patients can develop normal vision. However, where it gets to the point either because of the initial severity of the condition or because it is picked up late, where there are complicated retinal detachments, then permanent visual impairment occurs, and there really is no curative treatment later on. The focus is then on education and rehabilitation and use of the residual vision that they do have.
Aidyn came before time. He was born at 26 weeks old. There was nothing that would help to ease the contractions. They gave me some medication to stop the contractions, to try to keep him in the womb for a little bit longer, but it didn't work. He wanted to come early. He spent 68 days in ICU in San Fernando General Hospital. He was diagnosed with retinopathy of prematurity. Later on, we saw some specialists to see if anything could be done to rectify the problem. We saw a number of specialists locally. They diagnosed him further with retinal detachment, bilateral retinal detachment, because the retinopathy of prematurity happens in stages. So there's stage 1 to stage 4. And when he came out of the hospital, he was already at stage 3, which was far gone for any treatment to be possible for him.
Anything that an old-sighted person can do, well, mostly anything, I can still do it. It will just take a longer time for me to learn it and like get used to it. I would rely more on hearing than any of our other senses.
Aidyn wants to do well, so there's not much for me to motivate him and say, well, Aidyn, you need to do this for your school lessons. A lot of times he sets out his timetable. Once we agree upon a study timetable, he knows what time it is, so he would go do his work on his own.
It's easy to remain motivated to the easier subjects and the ones that have like the tools to do. So like the less visual subjects, because of the screen reader, it makes it much easier for me to read the text and questions and stuff like that. But for more visual subjects like maths and science, it is a bit more challenging, and I find it a bit more difficult, and I don't really like to do those much.
Aidyn is really good at grammar, maths, science, social studies. I think he's good at all of his subjects. He teaches me stuff that I don't know, and he helps me with problems that I don't know the solution to. Sometimes I help him with the sight, because sometimes he doesn't know what things are, so I have to help him and tell him what it is. Aidyn is very strong, and I think that how he wouldn't give up. He wouldn't just put down something and give up. He would stay up, stay strong, and keep on going. He's also planning to make an app on Play Store. He would like to make games, a game designer.
Aidyn has big dreams, and he hopes that having an education will help him to achieve his long-term goals. Although he is faced with challenges that other children his age won't have, he is determined to make the most of his time at school.
Going to school is important for me because I can get an education to get a job, to make money, to buy the things that I want to buy. But it's also important because I can have knowledge in a lot of topics, and I can take part in discussions and people also tend to listen to those who love knowledge, and I want to be heard. My biggest challenge in school so far is diagrams, because I can't really make out sometimes what they say, what it has on the diagrams, and the screen readers don't really read diagrams out properly. So I actually have to go in and read it myself if it's on an actual book. And sometimes, even if I zoom it in with like using the computer to zoom it in, I still won't be able to make out what some things are. And if it's in a book, I would use the toolpaths to help zoom it in. And if it's on the computer, I would probably try zoom it in with the computer first. And if I still can't see it or can't make out certain items, then I would call my mom or someone who could actually see probably tell me make it out, to tell me what it is. Well, for the board, the aide would usually read out the board, and yeah, so he would read out the board, and in school he would also read the text on the books. But like right now, what I'm doing, I can actually use the toolpaths to then zoom in and see stuff like small writing, like even this small. I can read and write Braille, but I'd rather type, and in order to write, all I do is like an empty page, I'd put it under this, and then magnify it up to how much I need to in order to see it. So my favorite part about being at school is just really when I get to talk to my friends. And also when we have PE. And my favorite subjects are PE, geography, science, and information technology. My most memorable moment at school has been when I won the mental maths competition in the county district. Well, I see school helping me in the future to become more all-rounded and social.
For many people, vision is the most important and useful sense. And in an age where the use of technology and screens has become pervasive, eye health in young children is a very contentious topic.
Increased use of screens has been linked to an increased incidence and a worsening of or a progression of short-sightedness in children. And it's not just only screen time, because if they spend the same amount of time that they would spend on a screen, they spend that same amount of time reading books and working at close range, then the same thing can occur. So it increases the demand on parenting, because you need to spend probably at least 2 hours outdoors a day engaged in outdoor activities in order to avoid or reduce that tendency towards increased myopia in kids. The age at which children should start having screen time is a very important question, because these digital devices have now taken the role of babysitting, and there are a lot of dangers to that. But it is recommended that children, babies, infants, should not be using tablets and cell phones to entertain themselves, perhaps before they are 12 to 18 months of age.
Aidyn's family has always encouraged all-roundedness, and this has helped him throughout his life thus far.
I've been playing the keyboard for a long time. For a long time now, about 10 years. Well, I had this keyboard since about 10 years, but a couple of years in between, I'd stopped playing it. And since I was 5, I went to the Blind Welfare Association and took music classes there. Until just a few weeks ago, I stopped because my classes finished. And yeah, I know how to play a couple of songs on the piano, because I don't really practice it too much. And the song I'm going to play, or demonstrate to play, because I do not know how to play the song perfectly as yet, is I Would Like to Visit the Moon from Sesame Street. Playing the keyboard makes me be more all-rounded. It's relaxing. Like before, when I used to be practicing the song, sometimes I used to start playing it and I didn't want to stop. And sometimes it used to make me feel like I was in a different place. Like maybe in the future, how I would be.
I think for Aidyn to go to high school and then maybe later on to university, I think that those would be the things, especially with his disability, that would help him to have an audience with people so that he can be successful in whatever endeavors he may have. I think the school setting, being around other children, being around other people, would help to motivate him, would help to build that confidence to be around other people, around other peers. I think that education for Aidyn especially is important, for him to have a voice in the future, for people to listen to him. Being Aidyn's mom has taught me so much. He is my first child. He has taught me to be strong, to be resilient, to strive, to want to be better. So I went back to school. At the age of 31, I went back to school and got my degree. I recently graduated so that I can show them that, nothing is impossible, that it's never too late to try, and you're never too old even to go back to try to accomplish something, your dreams. I think that Aidyn has taught me to be strong. Aidyn has many talents and gifts. He's good at music. He has a very good memory, so he does really well in school. I'm proud of being his mom because he's hardworking. And even though he may face challenges and he may face obstacles, he always pushes through. He's very determined. I think that he's such a great example for everyone, little children as well as adults, to push through, to be strong in the face of adversity. My advice to other mothers out there, other parents and guardians for visually impaired children would be to never treat your child differently because of their disability, to always treat them like you would a regular child, to always include them in things, listen to them, voice their opinions and their wishes, to talk to them. I think sometimes it's hard to know how to treat them. A child with vision problems, you might want to baby them and try to do things always for them. But for me, independence is very important also. Aidyn has a lot of help in the things that he does do in managing his daily life, but he also has to be able to do things for himself. So I encourage being independent and learning how to take care of yourself and move around, voice your opinions. So it's important for parents to not treat their child differently, to not baby them and treat them that, you have a disability, I'm going to spoil you, I'm going to do things for you. No. My wish for Aidyn is to achieve greatness.
I see myself becoming a video game designer and making one of the best-selling games in the video gaming industry. I would like to say thank you for all the help and support. I don't think I could have made it here the way I am without it. And I really hope I will achieve my dream and make you proud.